Why is it that every time we try to build anything in this country, we have to spend millions of pounds on paperwork and still get bogged down in litigation? Why are our veterans relentlessly chased through the courts by activist lawyers? Why couldn't we deport those foreign nationals who raped girls in communities across the UK? Why do we still allow them to remain in the very same towns where their victims live? Why?
And most of this House managed, despite everything, children be quiet.
Conference, they are crying out for a stronger economy, where hard work is rewarded and everyone has a chance to get on. For stronger borders, where we control who comes here and can remove those with no right to stay. This is our political DNA as Conservatives. Our job is to prove to the country that we are the only party that can deliver it. Conference, post-war, Conservatives spread prosperity and built millions of new homes, the bedrock of the property-owning democracy. In the 1980s, Mrs. Thatcher broke the cycle of high inflation, low growth and trade union strife, giving Britain back her national pride and economic strength. Labour accuse us of achieving nothing in the 14 years since 2010. I'll tell you what we did. Remember what we inherited from them back then. They spent all the money, sold the gold, piled up debt. Like every Labour government in history, they left unemployment higher than they found it. We were elected to fix it, and Conservatives got to work. We slashed the deficit every year so that when the pandemic hit, we had the means to weather the storm. We reformed our schools to put rigour back into the curriculum, and today a whole generation of young people will enter the world with better maths and literary skills than any generation before them. We reformed welfare. We got people into work. 4 million new jobs were created, over 1 million new businesses. We gave the British people a choice on our membership of the EU, and we implemented that decision. And Conference, we mustn't forget that in each election, from 2010 to 2019, our vote share went up. That's unprecedented in modern history. And the British people don't get it wrong. But if we take pride in what we got right, we also have to face up to what we got wrong. People won't listen to us again until we show them we have learned from our mistakes and changed. We've got to do this, and we have to do it properly. What have we learned? That you can't have a budget that has £150 billion of spending giveaways and billions more in tax cuts without saying where the money is coming from. We have to show that we have learned from the policy mistake of letting bureaucrats decide the immigration system. We failed to bring numbers down and stop the boats, let's be honest. That happened on our watch. Yes, we tried, but put simply, we didn't achieve enough. After years of responsible and effective government, our mistakes on the economy and on immigration lost us the trust and confidence of the public. So we start this week saying we have learned, and we will never repeat the financial irresponsibility of spending commitments without saying where the money is coming from. Never again, Conference. This week, we will set out how we have changed, how we will be different, and most importantly, how we will make a difference. Economic responsibility is the hallmark of the Conservative approach, and today it is right back at the heart of everything we stand for. We may be in Manchester, but the theme of economic responsibility will run through this conference like the words in a stick of Blackpool rock. There are two parts of our message at this conference: stronger economy, stronger borders. It is stronger borders that I want to talk to you about today. I was elected leader because I promised to renew this party and our policies, so we can win the next election and then rewire the state to make it work for people again. We are not interested in superficial fixes. Instead, we are taking a systemic approach, asking the difficult questions that others avoid. We have the courage to follow through with credible plans to answer them. It's the rigorous, practical, Conservative way. And on so many of those questions, the answers come back to the same thing. Why is it that every time we try to build anything in this country, we have to spend millions of pounds on paperwork and still get bogged down in litigation? Why are protesters allowed to block roads and disrupt lives time and time again? Why are our veterans relentlessly chased through the courts by activist lawyers? Why couldn't we deport those foreign nationals who raped girls in communities across the UK? Why do we still allow them to remain in the very same towns where their victims live? Why? It is fundamental. Why can't we control our borders and remove those who need to go? All these questions boil down to who should make the laws that govern the United Kingdom. Conservatives believe it should be our sovereign parliament, accountable to the British people. The reality today is that this is simply not the case. I saw it again and again in government. So often we had the right instincts and the right policies, but our hands were tied by a system that frustrated democratic control. This use of litigation as a political weapon is what I call lawfare. Well-meaning treaties and statutes like the European Convention on Human Rights and the European Convention on Action Against Trafficking, drafted with the best of intentions in generations gone by, and more recent additions like the Modern Slavery Act are now being used in ways never intended by their original authors. What should be shields to protect the vulnerable have instead become swords to attack democratic decisions and frustrate common sense. Conference, this isn't just damaging our security, it's also damaging our prosperity. It is that whole system which we need to reform, and the place to start is the European Convention on Human Rights.
I call Nigel Farage.
Deputy Speaker, I beg to move that leave be given to bring in a bill to make provision for the United Kingdom to withdraw from the European Convention on Human Rights and to make further provision in connection with the withdrawal of the United Kingdom from that convention. In many ways, this is unfinished business. On June 23rd, 2016, in the biggest democratic exercise in the history of these islands, the British people, despite being told by all the businesses and all the trade unions and much of the press and most of this House, managed, despite everything, children, be quiet.
Children, indeed. He's right. In a place like this, where important decision that decide the fate of the country is made, if adults cannot behave maturely, then they are better addressed as children.
Managed.
Order. I will be responsible for maintaining order in this chamber. Nigel Farage.
Yes, Madam Deputy, I'm sure you will allow me the opportunity to continue to try and say something without such constant interventions, and I thank you for that. And we voted clearly by a massive margin for the British people to bring back the sovereignty. And by the way, what makes me laugh about this, it isn't just the sovereignty of this country, it's the sovereignty of this very chamber and the people within it to bring power back to this very place, and that is what we voted for. And of course, one of the most important subsets, one of the biggest reasons for that vote to happen, was the deep alarm at the huge numbers of people coming into our country. The fact that effectively we had open borders, making us poorer in every way. Now, of course, our membership of the European Council, of the European Convention, and then its writing into British law in 1998, kind of enshrined this, and it's what I think Tony Blair wanted us to do. Now, I believe that Brexit cannot be complete, all the while we're subject to a foreign court and frankly, a piece of legislation brought in by the Blair government upon which judges can choose their own political interpretation. We are not sovereign, all the while we are part of the ECHR, the European Council, and its associated court. It's as simple as that. And do you wonder, it's marvellous to see the intellectual levels of debate in this place, it really is. Do you wonder that out in the country there is growing frustration?
Order. Can I remind members that the honourable gentleman has a 10-minute rule bill in front of this House and should be listened to without interruption. Nigel Farage.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I was talking about fear
Unbelievable.
growing in the country, anger growing in the country. I sense there's also a bit of that growing in this chamber as well. We do not believe, I do not believe, that it is right that we should, when it comes to controlling our borders, when it comes to who should be able legally to live, work and settle in this country, or indeed who should not be allowed to stay in our country, for this to be under the remit, firstly, of judges in Strasbourg, who, by the way, are jurists, most of them not even legally qualified, and secondly, under the political control of judges in this country who now can make their own interpretation of what we've understood for many, many years to be British common law. This bill intends to restore the power of this Parliament, the power of all of you as MPs, to actually be in control of the things that really matter most to all of your voters, whether they supported you or not. This bill intends to return British common law and to bring back some ideas, rather than state-given rights, of birthrights, of liberty and freedom. These are things that over centuries served our country far better than any other nation in the European continent. This is about liberty, it's about freedom, it's about democratic control.
This is terribly unbelievable. I mean, how does these people run the government? How does these individuals that behave like children when important issue is discussed in the House, how do they run the government? In a place like this, where important decision that determines the forwardness or the backwardness, the fate of the nation is made. Decision makers are behaving like children. They could not even pay attention to the issues addressed by Mr. Farage. No wonder the common people are complaining in the street that they are all talks without action. They are all talks without action. The problem is that majority of them are only there as distraction against those who are able to provide solution to the problems they are facing. And as black sheep, they need to be fetched out. If not, things will never be put in place. You will see people come up with good suggestions, good solutions, but there will be no support on their side.